We do have with us Mr. Shitu Shuaibu, who is the AGM Customer Service Standards at the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, Mope, and good morning, viewers.
Well, I can tell you you're sitting on a very uneasy chair this morning because you do know that a lot of our viewers are yet to get prepaid meters. It continues to be a very big issue. You know, I think only recently we organized a program called The Crux. It is at the heart of relationship between discos, who are the closest to the consumers, and the customers themselves. And I know that several times the federal government has set a deadline through the NERC in some instances. I think February was the last deadline you set for the discos. How far have you pursued that particular deadline with the discos?
Well, thank you very much, Mope. Like you mentioned, meter is a critical element in the power sector because it's really the only instrument that links the consumer to the operator. And it's the only instrument that, of course, is meant to, get back all revenues, spent within the electricity sector. So a meter is critical at all levels. Of course, you have meters at both transmission generation interface and generation distribution interface, as well as customer distribution company interface. So what we've been having as a major problem in the sector, of course, it's not just now, it's been there for quite a while, is a situation where customers, the end users, are having issues with metering in general, not necessarily prepaid metering. And for your information, prepaid metering actually is really an aberration. Typically worldwide, best practice, of course, is that you get a postpaid meter. Electricity business is done on credit mostly, but where you are not too sure that your customer is reliable enough, you now say, okay, let me place a prepayment meter in this environment. Presently, we have about 6.3 million customers, and we have, unfortunately, about 3.03 million customers metered. That is the metering gap we're facing. And this metering gap, of course, is, not just beginning. It came all the way from privatization.
Let me get that gap again. You're
Yes, please.
saying that you're yet to meter 3.3 million customers, or just 3.3 million have been metered?
That's the gap, 3.03 million customers.
So these are the customers that are yet to be metered?
Well, that are yet to be effectively metered. Effective metering means that sometimes you might have a meter that's defective. Okay. So we count those. Of course, you are not metered because eventually you're placed on estimated billing. With respect to our deadlines, what we have done at the Commission...
This is out of how many customers,
6.03 million customers.
Are you saying only 6.03 are connected to the grid?
Well, for now, that's what we have registered by all the distribution companies. Of course, what we have started is a customer enumeration project, which the Commission is spearheading, and we are expecting the various distribution companies to give us the actual number of customers they have. We know we have more than this, but of course it's in their interest to go about doing the customer enumeration, capture customers. Customers are really those who consume and are actually captured in the database. You might have more consumers than customers. So that's, when I mention customers, I mean those who are tied to the network, and you can register them, and of course they are being billed.
It's definitely very disturbing, because
Absolutely.
If you say that out of 6 million customers you currently have, roughly less than 7 million,
yes.
The gap,
yes.
those who are yet to be metered, is about 3 million, and you're looking at a population of about 180 million Nigerians at the last estimates it would seem. There's definitely a lot of work to be done.
Well, basically, what you look at with respect to electricity, you don't really look at population as if you look at structures, addresses, households, businesses, and, of course, industrial, makeup. So at the end of the day, we are hoping certainly that would have an astronomical increase in the number of customers that are captured and identified as customers.
So what's the deadline for that one?
Well, the deadline is really we gave them up to the end of the year, which is the MITO actually kicked off in February. So we're hoping that by February next year we should get some reports. We've actually had some discussions with them as to the progress report. Customer enumeration is quite a very tedious exercise. It means you look at both assets and the customers. So we're hoping that the customers will respond, the discos will respond fast enough to get for us to get the actual numbers. And it's in their interest, because the more number of customers you have, the better your revenue base. And of course, it's equally good for the customer. So you share the tariff is likely to go down when you have more customers consuming what we have.
So you're saying that right now, about 50% of those who are currently captured are yet to be metered?
Are yet to be effectively metered. We have actually a metering emergency, which, of course, the minister has pointed out. The NERC has done so much. We actually went out of the normal spheres of regulation by allowing customers to pay for meters, but unfortunately that program did not run well because we had to now find a way of winding it down and now holding on to the discourse for their performance agreement.
One of the things that you were saying is that they've not been effectively metered. So yes. It's not like as if some of them have not been metered, and there has to be the question of why have they not been effectively metered? What are the things hampering the discourse from effectively metering those who they need to meter?
Well, first and foremost, effective metering simply means you might have a meter in your place and yet it's not meeting, the credibility of the integrity of what it's supposed to measure. The most critical element in the sector presently is, of course, liquidity. Liquidity stems from non-availability of the product itself. One has to mention here that electricity is a product that's hashed and produced at generation. So electricity actually starts and ends at generation. All of the transmission, the distribution, and of course retailing of electricity simply are networks that ensure that the product moves from source to the customer. So if you have a situation where the product is not available, so what happens is you have a shortage, and within that shortage regime, you have a situation where the customer is not satisfied. So the little that comes to him, sometimes he might be reluctant to pay, especially if he's not effectively metered, that is, he doesn't have an instrument that, So liquidity is a critical element that has made, the entire sector to, remain where it is presently. And
but you've spoken about how, NERC has given concessions. You've talked about how this metering issue is supposed to be credit-based. The discos are supposed to supply the customers on credit, and at the end of the month, or whatever time is agreed, collect their monies after the electricity must have been supplied. Absolutely. But you've said that, NERC has given concession to ensure that, customers are able to get their meters even if they have to pay for it, and find a way that they are able to get compensation through, much later. Why is it that discos are still reluctant to explore these options?
Well, these are transitional issues. Actually, the CapMe program, which you're mentioning, which gives an option for the customer to, pay upfront for a capital item, because a meter is a capital item built into the revenue requirement of every disco. The present set of discos inherited the program. So there was reluctance, first and foremost, pre-privatization. And when the present discos came in, as much as they are business people, we were a little bit, concerned as to why they did not take advantage of upfront payment, free money, as it were, even though customers were to pay with some, they were to get some concessionary interest rate, 12% interest payback over a period of time. So it was really, of concern to us. We tried as much as possible to encourage the new owners. Of course, they come with their various business plans and what have you. And I guess that between when they came and when we wound up the program, probably they did not see the potentials. Although... Has CapMe been wound up? Absolutely. We wound CapMe up by 1st of November because, of course... 1st of November this year? Yes, absolutely. Because, the reason is we discovered a lot of things that were not so nice. You find customers paying 3, 4, 5 months after which, and then no meters. So we felt that now the distribution companies will now be held to their performance agreement. They signed performance agreement to meet a certain number of customers over a period of 5 years. Of course, cover the metering gap first and foremost, and then, of course, the new customers there to come in. So we're holding them firmly to those performance agreement. For instance, now this month, November 30th, will be a deadline for the metering of all MD customers. There's a deadline given to customers, and of course the MD customers from records, of course, are not more than about 74,000 throughout the country. So we expect that all the MD customers simply are commercial outfits that consume, a certain level that would not be, of course, catered for by the single and three-phase. So all the customers throughout the country MD customers are to be metered effectively by November 30th. And of course, we're again reminding you know, the discourse, and of course our customers out there to look out. If you are an MD customer and by December 30th, you are not effectively metered by DISCO, of course, the DISCOs will be penalized for that. So that's the first stage. So we'll remove that because the MD customers are the cash cow of the sector. They give about 80% of the revenue that comes from, you know, the sector. So we believe that it makes good business sense for, you know, the MD customers to be metered. So